Welcome back to Season 2 of Leadership In. Last season, we explored how leaders show up. This season, we go even deeper into the decisions, challenges, and moments that define leadership in advertising, media, and tech. I'm Greg McDonald.
And I'm Geoff Wallenitz. This season, we want to know more about senior leaders and the moments that tested them, the decisions that define them, and what it really means to lead in an industry that never stands still. We're thrilled to welcome Jill Steinhauser, Group SVP of Platform Monetization and Platform Management at Warner Brothers Discovery. Over the course of her career across various versions of WBD, she has built and scaled teams at the intersection of content, technology, and revenue, helping media organizations navigate industry change and unlock new growth. Incredible friend, voted by me best person to be in a golf foursome. Let's get started. Jill, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming. So we always kick it off, as our dozens of listeners know, with the same question, which is, tell us what you do. How do you introduce yourself at a dinner party?
At a dinner party, I thought about this one, and then I thought we should bring my parents in here to tell you what I do, because that's always a funny way to try to explain it. In casual situations like that, it's more, I work in media. Oh, who do you work for? Oh, I work for Warner Bros. Discovery. And then I go through the long list of brands that we own. And it's a healthy portfolio that's come together, to your point with the intro, over many, many years. But if I'm going a little bit deeper, I'm in an ad sales division at WBD. And me and my crew, we are at the intersection of all things monetization and execution. And what that means is we sit between tech, we sit between product, we sit between ad sales, we sit between all various parts of the company to ensure that the revenue is flowing, deals are executed properly, and we're looking to innovate further to make that more seamless, more transparent, and we're constantly looking for the next thing. I started out as an operator, core operator, and I'm moving more towards the strategic future state of media, because we've got linear television networks, we've got streaming services, we've got websites, we've got massive mega brands in the US and globally. So we are constantly looking at how to optimize the portfolio from a sales perspective. And ideally, like when we think about our team and we think about what we do, and I think about where I sit, we see ourselves at the center of a wheel, effectively amongst the external buyers, the platforms, the partners, the services, and the internal sales teams.
It's like a hub and spoke kind of thing.
Hub and spoke kind of thing.
It's always interesting to ask your family, no matter what age generation they fall into, because they almost never know the answer. I was up in Binghamton in October presenting to one of the school of management's groups. And as part of my presentation, I asked my wife and my two children, what do I do? And my wife got like 75% of it. My daughter got like 50% of it. And my son just said, IDK, you're a consultant. That was it. That was his whole description. So yeah, it's always very interesting to ask that question.
Exactly.
And how did you get started? And then if I could also ask, like, could you compare or contrast that with somebody who's starting today, how it might be the same or different?
I started at Fox Cable Networks when that was just FX, Nat Geo, some regional sports networks as a sales assistant. And I just knew I wanted to be around media. I was a television child. I remember the day MTV launched. I remember the Moon Man. We were constantly watching TVs, movies, and whatnot, and sitting through those awful long commercial breaks. So I just knew I wanted to be around media. I was a communications and business management major at Geneseo.
Oh, hey.
Yep, SUNY, go SUNY. Yeah, I was going to come home. I wanted to be in the city. I wanted to live in the city. I wanted to be around media. So I started as a sales assistant, and I very quickly realized, I do not want to be a salesperson at all. These people are so polished, and public speaking was not a friend of mine. And I just didn't want to deal with clients all day. And I think I had a lot of self-doubt at that moment in time and just trying to learn how to navigate life as a young 20-something in New York City. But I really liked how things worked, and I really liked the flow, and I really liked to look at logs, and I really liked to figure out how we get from a pitch to a pay situation. So I got my start there, and then I moved over to A&E Television Networks doing similar type work, more sales administration, planning, training, and whatnot. And then in 2007, I got my first job at Discovery for digital media P&I at Discovery at the time, which was a huge cable company with a very small digital arm, and maybe there was a group of 10 to 12 of us. It was a tiny little P&L, and we were just literally those guys over there are doing this digital thing. Learning digital at a cable company is very hard. So this group of us went into the ecosystem. We went into the partnerships. We were with vendors all the time. We were at the Ad Monsters events. We kind of all learned digital together just by reaching out as opposed to reaching in and then bringing what we learned back to the company. And then now, Discovery bought Scripps. Warner came in, and now it's multi-platform, every type of digital media you could imagine, streaming services. I honed my craft from just really having to be a self-starter and learn. There was no manual when I got to Discovery. It's evolved, and I would say this did not exist when I was in college, coming out of college. I can only imagine what they're taught in courses around media today.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Not the things you think.
Really, yeah. Not things think like, social media wasn't a thing. We were literally looking at old school communications textbooks. So today what I would say is, I personally, and maybe I do this a little bit too much, but it firmly helps me. Like, how does it all work in the background? I think a salesperson, a biz dev person, like understanding how the media business physically works, I think will help you innately move forward. I have that background. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I know how we get from point A to point B. That helps you innovate forward, because what I love about where the industry is going and what I'm seeing is just a lot more collaboration from what you think of as the content companies and the technology companies. And understanding the infrastructure, I think, will help tremendously for anyone starting out in the business on how it all works. And then you can apply that to your day-to-day, whether you're in sales or marketing or P&I or any other partner type teams.
It's really interesting that you bring up how you learned in college, because they're different. But honestly, the biggest difference is it's not a blackboard and an overhead projector anymore. It's a PowerPoint presentation. Other than that, like, the classes aren't so different. Not to say that it felt like I was sitting down in 1996, but let's say maybe 2004. The students are almost teaching the professors about certain new media in a lot of ways. The question I want to ask, which is like a little bit off script, but I think is relevant. You were a college athlete, right? You played tennis in college?
Yes, I played tennis.
So to what extent did the rigor you needed to bring to college athletic inform how you approach your job as an operations leader?
Oh, yeah. I played tennis in Western New York. So about 4-week season in the spring and in the fall. No, but it was immense time management. You're up early before class working out. You have matches and you might have to skip a class and you're going to have to make up. And then you have to travel, and you're traveling a couple hours away to play a set match. You're getting home. So time management is key. And I see this with my kids now who are both athletes, and just having to manage your time. It's one thing to play high school sports with kids that you grew up with, but then to meet all of these new people that you're playing sports with, you don't like them. And maybe there's some weird town that you've never heard of, and they certainly loved my accent from Long Island. That cultural phenomenon of a new team freshman year of college, I equate that a lot to sales teams, truthfully. And we talk about the sales team a lot as a team, a sports team. There's always going to be top talent. There's always going to be the sixth man off the bench that will reliably get the job done. There's going to be the starters and the stars and the shooter. But the same thing went for my tennis team. And you don't necessarily like everyone, but you are a team, and you have to put your personal feelings about each other aside and come together, because the goal is to win matches. The goal is to hit numbers and ad sales. And the goal is to move the business or the team forward. You sit at our sales conference. If they asked who was a high school or college athlete in this room, 90% of that room is going to raise their hand. It's just a very natural progression for athletes to make their way into sales. It just is a very similar type of culture and a similar type of way of working.
Very goal-oriented.
Yeah.
When you think back to the early days of your career when you first started, what's a piece of advice that you got early on that turned out to be either very right or, even more interestingly, wildly wrong?
This piece of advice is what I got at Discovery, because the move to Discovery was like when I really cared about my career and I wanted to do more. A&E and Fox were fantastic starting grounds for me. They truthfully were. But the opportunity at Discovery to move into digital, this medium that I was personally using on a regular basis, was a great opportunity I saw. And I went in completely blind. A woman named Andrea Kolb hired me. She took a chance on me. I had zero experience. She was a longtime Discovery sales manager. She was running digital at the time and needed someone who could come in and roll up their sleeves. And she saw that in me. So again, we were the misfits in the room who would come back with all these big words about digital. And when Discovery started getting serious about digital, it gave a lot of us a platform. And I'm a pretty quiet, I used to be. I don't think you'd think about me this way now, but pretty quiet most of the time. But I was getting called on in big group meetings. And being a digital person in a linear sales team is a tough one because you're going to get a couple of people that really want to listen and learn, and you're going to get a lot of people that are just going to tune you out. But the advice I got was from senior leadership at the time, you have a lot to offer, speak up. And I thought that was great advice. Like, speak up. You know it the best, and just gaining the confidence and knowing like we are the experts in the room. I needed to be told that. But on the flip side, it can go a little bit too far because digital media people, they like to talk a lot about how smart they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of these concepts that are foreign to others are just like us shooting the breeze on any given day, just doing business. I know when I am rambling and it's word vomit, I don't know it enough. So I have to take it back. I have to pull it back and simplify it because, again, the concepts then were intense. The concepts now are even more intense. For someone who's never worked in digital media, to try and explain this business right now and how things work, completely foreign to them. I think I do a good job of explaining up in a succinct manner to explain to senior leadership what is happening, what should happen. But I will say, going back to that speak up advice, you can take it too far. I prefer to be the more quiet one in the room and speak when called on, and I just don't like when people speak to speak. That is definitely something that happens in our business quite a bit. So I think, there's a line there that you can easily cross, and then you're just going to get tuned out if you're just talking too much.
Well, self-editing is a skill like anything else, right? 100%. So it's a skill in email too, like even in written communication.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Bill Murray, one of my colleagues, tells this brutal story of the time he got a note back from a senior leader with a red line under sentence 3. And he said, the person said, yeah, I stopped reading after that line because it was too verbose. And I think about that often. If you're sending something to a senior leader and it's more than 3 bullets, you've lost them.
You have to assume they're reading it on their phone because that's probably true a lot of the time. And they don't want to scroll. And it should be one question, ideally a yes or no.
Yep.
So want to talk just a little bit about the business, trying to spotlight there as well. Can you talk about Warner Brothers Discovery and just the way in which you're leaders in the space in terms of like your product, your market?
Yeah,
people?
I mean, product-wise, just look what happened at the Oscars. I mean, Warner Bros. Discovery brought home over 10 Oscars, I want to say. Just the quality of content coming out of this company is exceptional. Maybe I'm biased, but I was a fan of all of these brands before I started working at the Warner Brothers Discovery conglomerate, whether it's Scripps content, Food Network, HGTV, whether it's good old-fashioned Discovery and ID and some murder documentaries. HBO Max, I pretty much watch everything we put out. Sunday nights, HBO has always been my thing and my husband's thing. We constantly watch all of that great content. And obviously the studios are just killing it right now. So the content is exceptional, and it is why people gravitate towards it for sure. From a product perspective, I would say we really create exceptional experiences. I think HBO Max is a fantastic tech platform. I think it gets some bad raps, and of course, we follow along with the customer journey and completes, but I find it to be a very intuitive, useful app. Recommendations certainly could be better, but from a product perspective, we have teams day in, day out trying to make that experience better. Then you think of other experiences, our sports portfolio. We have a huge amount of sports, despite the fact that the NBA moved. We're constantly managing for live sporting events and managing that experience for our users across all screens. And then the people, look, I started back moving to Discovery. I had never worked at such a big company with so many smart people. And every time we come together with another company, it's another group of really smart people and a group of passionate people. It was a bit of a transition, truthfully, from my small little digital SWAT team at Discovery. And then at Scripps, we picked up some more really smart digital people. And then at Warner, a lot of smart digital people. But I would say people at the company feel very purposeful and responsible for being stewards of the brands at the company, whether you are in ad sales or product marketing or whatever division you live in. We have the best content on the planet, in my opinion, and we all feel that way. And that is how we operate on a daily basis, protecting those brands, protecting the consumer experiences, and bringing that to our clients, and also protecting our clients' experiences from a sales perspective, and really delivering what we promised upon while maintaining the quality experience that we have in those content genres.
Each one of those companies that came together had a slightly different DNA.
Yes.
Right? So when you're splicing all that together, that can become a challenge in itself, right? You could talk a little bit about what it means to navigate through change. The secondary, I think, related piece to that is you have a leadership philosophy and style, which we're talking about now. And the company itself is a pretty big standard setter across the industry, right? So when you think of what it means to lead inside of a company that sets a standard, what does that mean to you? How does that change things? So one is like, what is it like to lead through change? And then the other question is, what's it like to lead at a company that's really out in front of the market?
Right. So we'll start with that one, leading out in front, because I think it ties into my previous answer a little bit. There's an enormous amount of pressure to continue to act from a place of leading, right? Sunday nights on HBO. It's an event. It's not live, but it's an event that drops for us. That is The White Lotus. That is 97 Kingdoms, which is fantastic if you haven't watched it. Industry. What's coming next with House of the Dragon? Casey Bloys and his team are phenomenal. Pressure on them to obviously keep on hitting the mark, and then pressure on us from a sales perspective to monetize it and to get it in front of our clients. And people want to be around that brand, regardless of it being the White Lotus and maybe some TVMA guidelines. I mean, look at Heated Rivalry, what that did for culture for a series of weeks. That is something that we take very seriously, and you just have to continue to hit it. So I will say this, it's very easy and a transition to the next question, it's very easy with the fact that we live in a constant change mentality here within media in general. Anyone that works in media, and we know plenty of people, are going through this as well. There's just constant change, whether it's companies coming together, companies breaking apart. There's constant reorganizations. There's constant change because the business is moving faster than we can keep up with it from a tech perspective and from a viewer behavior perspective. While that disruption is happening, you still have to service your clients, and we still have to make great content. So it is a pressure-filled situation, and the best people that manage through it are the ones that can keep their shit together. And that's the only time I'll curse on this podcast. Keep calm and carry on. And that is where I think we thrive as a business, right? Again, senior leadership who's been through it all and can do that better than your lower levels. But you have a goal, you have a focus, go towards that goal. Let's stop pivoting. And it can feel like whiplash all the time. But at the end of the day, the goals are to hit our revenue numbers, service our clients, service our viewers. And if we end up winning a ton of awards, which we do every award season, that's great as well. That's why it's so exciting. And the constant change can be defeating. It can be exhausting. It can be frustrating. And you just think, I just got into this org setup. Now I got to go re-org again. I got to go do this again. We have to go focus on this. But we're living in this disruption that we've not seen since we started working in the industry, right? Maybe the dot-com bubble that burst 20 or so years ago, right?
Yes, probably. But what's happening now, and you said something very insightful in there, and you kind of winked at what I'm about to say, because I think about this a lot, which is we have a bunch of structures in place that are designed to support what I would call linear change. But what we're going through now is exponential change. And the difference between those two things and its ability to self-regulate, I think, is where we're going to see a lot of static going forward. And I think that's where it gets really challenging to manage through change. Because in a lot of ways, even through the dot-com bubble, what you were saying was, okay, we've seen broadcast TV get overtaken by cable TV, and this is at least analogous to that, right? Dot-com's going through a correction, but the internet's here to stay.
Right.
So you could at least give some level of guidance through that. This, I think, is totally different. This is a disruption in a way that is kind of more like the difference between radio and television.
Yeah.
Or like the printing press and television, if you want to even get bigger. So so leading through that change can be really challenging in a bunch of different ways because there's no roadmap.
There's no roadmap. Our jobs as leaders are to steward the change. You got to lean into it. You need to know media across all of these screens and how it works and how to sell it. And it's different, but it's also the same because you're all watching it on a connected device in your living room. And Geoff can watch a Samsung Fast Channel, and I can go to HBO Max and see the tournament, but also the latest episode of whatever dropped on Sunday. So it is easy for me at my level with experience to say to the rank and file, this is happening. You have to deal with it. But I can understand why it's extremely jarring to that more mid-level manager. Like, wait, I just got here working on this. Now I have to go work on this. It's leadership's job to keep everyone calm and focused. It's the industry's job to keep everyone calm and focused. And, digital media does not self-regulate at all. We just keep on making stuff up and figuring out what our terms and conditions are every couple of years. but it's ultimately going back to the fact that we work on this amazing content portfolio. That is what we are at our core, content. Right. And you got to manage around this disruption and feed the public what they want to watch while we service the business from the inside.
You talked about both the industry changing as well as a bunch of company changes that you've lived through with assets coming together. How do you keep people focused on the task ahead? It's a very thoughtful thing as a leader to say we have to pick a lane and stick to it and keep everybody focused on it. But when you're leading a large organization, getting people, I was going to say fall in line, but it's not even that. It's getting them to buy in to sort of help push in that direction. How do you do that?
So I think it helps tremendously when leadership communicates, even if they have nothing to communicate. Simply saying, I don't have an update, but I know you're asking this question. And as soon as I have that update, I will get you the answer. Radio silence goes nowhere, and the staff thinks you don't care. We all care tremendously. We know, and in many cases, we know what they know. But whenever I do those types of communications, whether it's a big team, all hands, or an email, like, hey, you saw this come out, this is what's going on. I always go back to the best thing you could do right now is focus on the goals we have laid out. And we do goal setting is a slog. Like it's like, what do I want to do this year? What are we doing this year? But it's important. And I print mine out and I keep them in my little pad. And on a day that's tremendously frustrating and busy, I open them back up and say, okay, are we marching towards these goals? And that's just the way I manage myself. And I can imagine folks have tools of their own, but this is your job. This is a for-profit company. We have a job to do and we have a number to hit. That's the beauty of being in ad sales. You are measured every day. Right. You know if you're hitting it or not. There's no vagueness. There is a report card every couple of weeks when you forecast and every quarter and you report earnings. We know how we're doing and we take a close look at it on a regular basis. Yeah. And that's what we have to focus on. This is going to sound pretty harsh, but there's really no room for fluff in the day to day. And the people that will survive this transition are the ones that keep the best focus they can and can keep calm through it all.
You just talked a lot about performance there. Mm-hmm. How do you balance the idea of performance at a for-profit organization with the humanity of the people that work there? That's
that's hard.
Big thing. Yeah.
You need both. You 100% need both. Life is way too short for it to be about all performance all the time. But that is our job, to perform. And this goes back to playing sports, right? Mm-hmm. You want to win. Winning is fun. Winning is good. Losing a great game that you come close in, also good. But losing consistently is just not fun. And that's the way that we perform. And that's the way that we measure ourselves, winning and hitting numbers. That being said, you can win and still be not a jerk. You can win and have a human quotient in your day-to-day. And I will tell you, at this point in my career, there's people on staff that perform to 150% all the time. And some of them can handle it, and some of them will spin out, right? When I'm really, really busy and I'm pushing, working hard, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're performing. It just means that you're prone to burnout and there's a lot to do. And one, you don't want to ask for help. You want to get it done yourself, improve yourself. Or you can't ask for help because no one else knows what you do, which is a huge issue in terms of having bench in an organization. Or you definitely see those people who flame out quickly because they pushed you hard. I think I would take 80% performance for 120% humanity now in my career, because like a sports team, you need to all work together cohesively and respect one another. So I do believe there's room for both. I definitely have seen the lack of humanity in this industry. I don't want to be involved in that. And I feel like our organization has the perfect mix of both humanity and performance. And you have to give your people time. As you grow up the ranks, my safe space is to get in the weeds and do some work. That is not what I need to be doing anymore at my level. It's nice to sit there and write an email and fill a spreadsheet out and look at something, look at a report. That is not what my role needs to be. My role needs to be managing a team and pushing them forward and thinking strategically about the next 6 to 12 months and what we want to do and what we should do, and having coffee with a colleague or a partner, but leaving the door open for those people who think they need to be performing at 150% all the time. We're about to crash out. But I think that the role as a leader is to allow for that humanity to shine on a regular basis and keep that door open for your staff.
And I think it's such an important point, especially at this moment in time, because there's a lot of companies that have taken out a more senior level of people and they're like, okay, we flattened, we have a really good bench, and in a different era, this next level of director, senior director, whatever, might have grown up to the next level over a period of 2 or 5 years. And we've decided to take the cost savings today and we're going to drop them in the chair and hope that they can perform and hope for the best. And I had an example last night. I was meeting with somebody who was like, yeah, I worked for this manager who did not give space, who was pushing his work ethic across the rest of the team. It was something that was burning the team out and they were not performing as a team the way they might have or delivering the way they wanted to.
That's common. That's what I've heard happens in tech companies, which is how I know I will never work well and effectively at companies like that. It feels just very generic, truthfully, to expect your team to work in the same manner that you do. I don't necessarily care how you get from point A to point B, but I need you to get from point A to point B in the next couple of days. Yeah. So figure it out. And I don't care how you do it. And I don't care who you work with to do it. You will figure that out. So I think that simply flattening out the org structure, which sure, I think every organization can do that.
Yeah.
If you're just going to flatten the org chart and just give your smartest person on the team that senior director to VP role, and they've not managed anyone and they haven't managed through change, like that's going to be a problem for them unless you have the tool set to help them grow into that role. It's not always the smartest person on the team that gets that chair or should get that chair. It's the people that can navigate through change, that are smart, certainly, but can work in a group setting and collaborate effectively and also being respectful, for me at least, for showing that humanity in day-to-day life at work.
It's a redefinition of performance and it's understanding the difference between street smarts and book smarts. And it's not that you can't learn street smarts. Some of those things are native to who you are, but like a person who has the ability to read people and understand what's going on in the room and then pull pieces of disparate information together as opposed to just quote unquote performing, those people tend to make better managers. Early on in my career, I used to get a lot of questions from the people I managed who were like, well, what can I do to be you? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not going anywhere. But if I do,
take me out.
Right, you have to understand that at the beginning of your career, you're 99% doing and 1% managing. And gradually over the course of your career, those percentages shift. So if you can change your mindset from what it means to actually accomplish a task versus what it means to help direct someone else accomplish a task, those two things are very different skill sets. They're very different competencies. And it even gets more complicated when you start to manage people who manage people.
Yes.
And then as you climb. So this redefinition of the notion of performance, right? And I think you said it super succinctly, which it doesn't only mean hitting your numbers.
No.
That's not what performance is. Performance is accomplishing a goal the way that you accomplish the goal.
I love when new managers have that first management freak out. Oh, I spent all day with the staff. Everyone's complaining. Like, I know.
Right.
Like, I don't relish in their pain, truthfully. I don't mean that, but I mean, yes, this is what the job is now. And that mid-tier level, that's tough. That is not only managing a team of people, probably training a good amount of people, holding hands on a regular basis, managing emotions, managing the questions of when they're going to get promoted, while also still being a doer. I remember those days. It was tough.
And also people who are roughly your age.
Yes.
That's the other thing.
Yes.
My first management experience, the people I managed were all older than me.
Yeah.
And that's
a whole new thing now. I'm the elder in the room in a lot of cases, truthfully. Now, in terms of leadership that I'm sitting alongside and leadership that we're reporting into. I love to see it because the younger generations who can do both, manage the people and manage the process and the tasks at hand and perform, they're going to go extremely far. But you need EQ. But here's the thing. It depends on the company that you work at. Some just don't really care about the EQ quotient. You know, a lot do. I just don't see how we at WBD can work at a content company that brings so much emotion to the screen, like can't have emotion. And we're all emotional people. It's the matter of keeping those emotions in check. Because you can't be emotional all the time.
Well, it's the art and science argument, right?
That's right.
Well, both.
Right.
Have you ever faced a challenge where the company's position as a market leader complicated the right course of action?
Every day. I mean, every day. Every day. There's so many crazy things that are being asked of us on a regular basis from our clients, from our viewers, from our vendors that just don't align with what we maybe want to do because of the premium nature of what we put out into the world. And it's not that we don't want to take a look at everything. You just physically can't. I mean, the amount of cold calls that we still get in this industry from new startup companies and new clients that want to buy and whatnot. There's still a lot of companies out there working in the media industry that are trying to get in with the bigger guys, which is where I put WBD. You can't do it all. And then some of it is this legal? The privacy regulations that are swirling in the industry right now, but also, does this make sense for our business to do this? The perspective we take as an ad sales organization with the content and the experiences that we're selling is, we know it best. We own the conversation with our clients and the marketplace. And the people who we work with who understand that creates the best partnerships for us. There's some that go against that grain, and it does put you at odds with, this might be a lot of money, but this isn't exactly the way to go about it. You definitely have those conversations. But you actually have to stay true to your goals and your focus in the brands. And sometimes it means turning down revenue, and that's okay.
At a certain point, it has to be, right?
Yeah.
What is the long-term health of the company ultimately?
The long-term health of the company, and constantly trying for quick wins.
So when you think about the future of the industry, like, what's the thing that excites you most about what's coming in media?
It's so exciting. Media in general has changed dramatically over the past 10 years in terms of new screens, new formats, new things to watch, new things to suck up your time all day. It's fascinating to see how various generations consume content. I think that's really, really interesting. The monetization of said content, also extremely interesting. But we're at a time where I do think we get to write the playbook, which is great. Not only are we seeing the complete change in the way users consume content in media sales, like, we're going to see the way in which you buy media is going to change dramatically. It's already there. Like, I think about, and it's the first time I'm going to say AI on this podcast. Can you imagine what your life would have been like running an ops team with agents that could move your processes along, as opposed to every different step you had to take, of which sometimes there were 20 steps to get a campaign live? That is fantastic efficiency, and it will allow for more strategic thought going forward. I welcome it. I embrace it. I think we have to be careful. I don't think it's going to be a silver bullet by any means. I think it has to be watched and protected and checked. But that's what excites me. I'm very comfortable with change, though. I welcome it. To be here at the forefront of this massive change is very exciting to me. And if you can be in it and move the change forward, great opportunity for anyone in a business.
That's very much a performance versus humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring it home. What do you hope your legacy will be?
I thought about this one a lot. So thank you. The pre-read allowed me to think about it. And a leader at Discovery way back when said this a lot. So just be nice and effective. Nice and effective. I'm more kind than nice. So I think being kind and effective is something that I want to be remembered as, in terms of being a human. There was another question in terms of, are there gaps in leadership? Mm-hmm. I still don't see enough female leadership at the top. I really don't. I think it's getting so much better. There's so many smart females in seat that are kind and effective, that can do their job. Was talking about this with a colleague yesterday about being a role model for that younger generation of females in the industry. And I really pride myself on that. And like, male, female, doesn't matter, but being a leader that can be effective and direct teams. I don't necessarily need to be an innovator by any means. I just want to be known for being that effective manager, as well as being kind and empathetic and supportive. My door's always open. I love to grab a coffee. I don't start every conversation with, tell me what you're working on. It's, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your kids. Tell me about your dog. What are you doing outside the office? I do like to know people from a human perspective that I work with before we get into the details of the muck of the day-to-day. So I hope that people remember me for being that open and transparent, and allowing for them to come on into my world and get to know me a little bit better.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Conversation.
Leadership In is hosted and produced by Geoff Wallenitz and Greg McDonald. This episode was recorded at Podstream Studios in New York City, and we'd like to give special thanks to the amazing studio team and to Jess DeWeese for production support. Please follow the show in your favorite podcast app, and if you have questions or know someone who'd make a great guest, we'd love to hear from you at leadershipinpodcast@gmail.com.